Okay, everybody, welcome to our case studies webinar. Thanks for joining us. It's now 2 o'clock in Melbourne, and we've got people joining from all around the country, which is fantastic. So today we're going to be looking at some specific case studies of veterinary practices that we work with that have had success with online marketing. And the reason we're doing that is because it's a successful way for other practices to understand what it means to do successful online marketing. You've got a lot of choices when it comes to what you do with your online marketing. Many practices do very little. And what these case studies we're endeavouring to do is to show you that if you do something with your online marketing, you can actually get a measurable result. And so thank you for joining us. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start. We will finish as close to 2:30 as we can. Having said that, there are lots of questions to answer, I'm happy to do it afterwards or even take it offline. So questions are welcome. Any questions? And particularly with some of those online marketing topics which are might not be your strength, you might feel embarrassed about asking them, but please do, because that's where the conversation starts. So for instance, I had someone this morning say to me, a client of ours say, look, I don't really understand what AdWords is. And I'm really glad they said that, because then I said, well, what do you know about it? And we started talking about it from the basics and then filled in the gaps. Because at the end of the day, online marketing is very simple. However, you do need to get your head around the details or sort of the principles, I should say, in order for it to become simple. Otherwise, it can become a confusing mess. And also just want to clarify, everyone can hear okay. And so, Lauren, thanks for your comment. Please, or Mark, just drop a note saying you can hear all right. That'd be great. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, which means if you can't see what I'm talking about when I say, oh, now here we go, could you please send me a text, or a little chat note, because I've done this before where I actually didn't share my screen. I was rabbiting on for ages without it. All right, without any further ado, let's get onto it now. I am going to share my screen, and I'll choose what we're going to share. And that's correct. Now, let's just see. Right, here we go. Now, if I just put this in presenting mode. Okay, so now what you should be able to do is you should be able to see the blue screen. It says Case Studies of Success, PetPack Clients, webinar Thursday, 25th of May. And could you just please confirm that you can see that? That would be great. And I might toggle backwards and forwards between slides like this. And I'm just checking to see whether we've got. Oh, yeah, okay. Beautiful, all good, ready to go. Put him down here. All right, great. So case studies, let's get stuck into it. So, excuse me, the slow transitions here. This is obviously by PetPack, James, myself at PetPack. We are the veterinary marketing experts, and we're the only company that just does veterinary online marketing, which is our point of difference. So the reason why we're doing case studies is to give you an insight into how online marketing can work. And it does make it easy to see how it can be applied in your own situation. When you see real people, you might know some of these people and what they're doing. So a big thank you to those practice owners that have agreed to us talking about them. And that's Amanda Knott at Inner South Veterinary Centre. Thank you, Amanda. Justin Ward from Reedy Creek in the Gold Coast, and Joe Cabelli, a good mate of mine from uni in Hoppers Crossing in Victoria. So let's just start with Inner South. Now, I've titled this the busiest website. This, as far as we're aware, is the busiest, most productive website of any veterinary practice in Australia and New Zealand. Now, of course, there might be busier and more successful websites. But from our perspective, where we measure the performance of all the sites that we can see, this is it. Now, just a couple of notes from Amanda. That's Amanda there, obviously, which is unrelated to the website, but it will come back to why it's important. She says the newsletter, so she uses the Pepac email newsletter, is helping me sell more products and services. The other day, I had a client who is heading down the coast for Christmas. I've been talking about ticks in the newsletter and blog, and she said, yes, I read about it in the newsletter and blog. Do you notice that we're talking about the newsletter and the blog there? I'll come back to that. As a result, the consult was easier. She has all the prevention she needs, and because she's better informed, she's more likely to comply with the treatment. It's all good. And remember, we're doing this because we want to help people look after their animals better and do more at the vet. So that's a win for both of us, she says. Oh, and of course, you can talk about our website. So primarily, I'm interested in her website, but there's a connection here between newsletter and the blog, which relates to the website, which I'll come to and endeavour to explain. So let's have a little look at the analysis of Inner South. They are an established practice in Canberra. They're looking to generate more new clients. They want their clients coming back more often, and they want an effective website. When we did the analysis originally with Amanda, there was a great opportunity to add good quality content. Now that means putting material on the website that helps Google understand how you can help your local community. And notice how I use the word local community, because the content needs to relate to your local business environment. Whereas if you put a generic article on there about a particular procedure that doesn't relate to your area, it's much less helpful. And you might be asking, why is that the case? And the reason is because, and this is the number one thing you need to remember about Google, is Google wants to do the best thing for the consumer. So the consumer is someone standing in the Canberra area who's searching for rabbit vaccination or rabbit vet or something like that. I know, because Inner South has a lot of rabbit work. And if on her website, Amanda has information that's relevant about rabbit care in the Canberra area, Google goes, bingo, I'm giving you that. If it doesn't talk about the Canberra area in a way that's sensible, then you will be competing, Amanda would be competing with things like the AVA, if they have an article about rabbits, the rabbit hotline, and US websites about rabbits. So we see this often where a clinic doesn't put localized tailored content on their website, that when you do a search in that area for, let's say, snake bite, dog, then Google doesn't pick up the local vet clinic, because the local vet clinic doesn't have anything on there which says that's what we do in this area. And you'll get something from the AVA or an American website. Originally, the website was not mobile friendly either. And when we started with Inner South, that was less of a problem. But today, it's a massive issue if you don't do that. And you might be aware, but I'll say it again, that 80% of local business search is now coming from mobile phones. And then lastly, the content is not coordinated across all media. So we found that means that if they write something somewhere, and generally practices will just put their content effort into Facebook, they won't do anything on their website, and they won't do anything in an email newsletter, which means they're probably not sending an email newsletter. Then what we're seeing is a lack of coordination of that content. So in the slide before, where we talked about, she says here, the newsletter, I've been talking about ticks in the newsletter and the blog. It's particularly significant because what she's done is she's taken the core piece of content, which is about ticks, and she's distributed across her newsletter and blog and Facebook. With the obvious benefit is the client saw it in both places and help the process. Okay, so the strategy for Inner South is to improve their search and new client numbers by getting a mobile-friendly site, improve local area search using AdWords, but most importantly, in their case, content. In fact, they did the AdWords after they did the content. Creating new content, coordinating content across all the media, and then measuring the performance, tracking the calls. So what we want to do is you want to know that if we're putting good quality content on her website and in her other channels, that it's actually making a difference to the number of phone calls she's getting. So here's just a couple of reminder slides about what we're actually talking about. So this is obviously a mobile phone. Mobile phones have become the number one source of new business for practices. So the first image here is Google My Business listing, which is picking up probably close to 50% of the phone calls for a practice. This is your Google AdWords here, obviously not for her practice, but another practice, which will pick up about, these ads here will pick up somewhere between 10 to 20% of the calls, maybe a bit more. And then over here is the mobile website. And we'll get to her site in a minute to have a look at her content. In fact, let's go there now. If I can, bear with me for a minute. Here we go. So if we look at this is the home page for Inner South, or sorry, not the home page, but a page directed specifically to puppies and kittens. And you can see that she's put a lot of content, a lot of detail into her content here. Also with a call to action for her prospective clients. So she gets a lot of people engaging with them on this topic. Here's an example of something which you might find is quite obscure. In fact, it's relatively obscure, but they do a lot of animals other than dogs and cats. And you can see she's put a lot of effort into, this is all content that they created themselves. So having original content is really important. And we'll set these pages up so that the header, the title and description talk about the areas around Canberra that they're servicing for ducks. And I'm not going to go through all the pages. They've got a lot of content on their website. Here you go, rabbits. Lots of information for rabbit people. Just scanning through, which this might come up as a bit blurry on your screen. And you can look at this again later, but there's really, really good quality content here. Once again, it's all been localized in terms of the title and descriptions on the pages, which we'll do with her, do as part of the process. All right, now before we get back into the Prezzo, any questions at this stage? No questions, that's great, we'll keep going. All right. So I was talking before about the things that we do on the website. We've talked about helping create that content. And if I go back to the presenting mode, we talked about the way the website presents. So a good example of having the right content on your website to help is that if we have a look at this, this here is an ad. We call it anything. When I talk about ads online, I'm talking about Google AdWords rather than saying Google AdWords. I mean ads. I'll say ads. If that ad is talking about a specific service, let's say it's puppies and kittens, what we will do is we'll make sure that when the person clicks on that ad, it takes them through to the puppies and kittens page. And the reason that's beneficial is because the consumer is given what they're looking for, and they're much more likely to then transact, which in our case means ringing the practice. Because of that, you get rewarded by Google they reduce the cost of the ads, and we've seen up to 50% reduction in ad costs, which is significant. It might be saving the practice a couple of $100, say probably $100 a month of a $100 to $200 spend per month on their ads. It's a much more effective use of your money. This is a bit more detail about AdWords for those of you who are interested. I won't go into a lot of detail, but the basic benefit is that you're going to increase your traffic to your website. We're also finding people, see how there's a phone number here? We're finding that about 30% of people that are interacting with these ads are ringing the clinic directly off the ad. It's a very cost-effective way to get the person into the clinic or onto the phone. The other good thing about this is the cost of the advertising is controlled by you. So we would recommend that you have a spend of $10, a budget of $10 a day, which could be $300 a month. But because not all those ads will be used every day, we find that average practice is spending somewhere between $100 and $200 a month. And that's that's significant because there are quite a few clients of ours who have done it themselves. So you're able to run AdWords yourself. And because they haven't been efficient at running ads, they've been spending close to $1,000 a month on the ads. So here's something that's quite interesting, relates to how Amanda's been so successful. This is about having locally relevant content put on your website. And you can, so let's say what we've got here is, this is for a different clinic where they've got we've provided them with a blog article. So a blog article is basically an article that goes on the website, and it can be in a blog, but it doesn't have to be, and it's tailored for that local environment. You can't see the text from here, but it's got local references in it. And then what we do is we then use that content for specific Facebook pages, or posts, I should say. So you've got over here is a Facebook post about the same topic. And you can see there's a lot of engagement with that actual post, and it's reached 6,000 people. And then also what we'll do is we'll have similar content in the new email newsletter. And there's a diagram on the next page which describes that. I'll just go down a bit, bear with me. Here, which is a very simple diagram of how you organize your content to be effective. So let's imagine this is Amanda's website here. You put, on a monthly basis, you put on there a 300 to 400 word blog that's been tailored for the local environment. So it might be about snake bite in your area, which is something that's an issue, or you know it's going to be an issue in spring or summer. And then what you from that blog article, you take little snippets of it and make 4 posts on your Facebook page for that month. Each of them are linked back to the website. And in the email newsletter, you'll do a short intro article, which could be taken from this blog. It might be, half the introductory paragraph with a bit of excitement and a nice little picture with a link back to the website. So do you remember how Amanda said the client said she'd been reading the email newsletter and the blog? Well, the reason she's doing both is because she's getting the email newsletter sent to her. She's clicking on the link and going into the blog to get more information. So this would be gold standard content management for vet practices. The challenge is actually executing on it, and because clinics find it difficult to organize their content when they've got a million other things to do, primarily looking after their clients. But we certainly help practices do it. So this is really how you get the most out of the effort you're putting into it, as opposed to what practices can do without organization is they'll spend a lot of time on Facebook. They'll spend no time on the website and no time on an email newsletter, which means that all this effort goes into Facebook and the posts disappear as soon as they're put on. Whereas if you're able to put it into your website, it stays there forever, inverted commas. And Google uses it as a referencing tool to build up its understanding of who you are and your reputation or your relationship with Google. All right, back to Amanda again with her newsletter type. So this is just to refresh. This is what she's actually sending out to her clients. A newsletter like this is a different clinic, of course, and then that is. I'll just open that into another screen. So she's sending this out to her clients, and what they're doing is they're clicking on links here, which take you into the website. Does that make sense? Anyone got any questions about how she structures her content? No, that's good. All right. So this is something that everyone can do. You can do it yourself, or you can get us to do it. This is our area of expertise, and we're very good at managing content for practices in order to generate more business. All right, so back to here. All right, so let's have a look at the results for Amanda in the South. So she has the most visitors to her website of any vet website that we know of, and she has the most phone calls from online of any vet clinic we know of. So it's the best performing website in Australia. And this is important to underline this, because when people are thinking, when you're thinking about what do you want your website to do, from our perspective and from most of our clients' point of view, these are the 2 things you want it to be good at: getting people to come to it and then getting them to renew. Now, there are other things that are becoming more important. So online booking, for instance, is becoming significant and will become a really good adjunct to this process. from our perspective, we see that as being really particularly important in after hours. During the day, we think that for the near future anyway, phone calls will maintain their role as being significant, and the two actually work well together. We've got a couple of clients who are actually tracking the significance of their online booking, because we put our online booking tools into clinics' websites, and it's basically a thumbs up. It's worthwhile doing if you're interested. All right, moving on. So I want to talk to you about another case study now, and just if you have any other questions about Amanda, just let me know. Another case study, which is actually specifically about AdWords, and we've covered a bit about AdWords, but just a couple of things I want to add. AdWords is really good for suburb visibility, meaning you're not visible in a suburb, and for most of you here today that are joining us, you will be invisible in your surrounding suburbs. So to fix it, AdWords is a great way to solve it. Brand visibility, that's where you've got a competitor in your market, and you really want to make sure that your clients can find you, or people who have been recommended to you can find you. And that's particularly important with, this is a mobile phone screen being very small. So you can imagine if, this is Eltham, for instance, they're doing very well, but if Eltham did not have an ad there, and also were not dominating in their maps listing, regardless of their website, you wouldn't be able to find them, because another clinic would probably have their ad there. Thirdly, service visibility. If you want to promote a particular service like a cattery or puppy training, it's a great way to promote it. And lastly, promotions. We have not done a lot of work in promotions, but it's potentially very useful for promotions. Yeah, a special a month or something like that. So our next case study is Justin Ward from Reedy Creek, and I'll just read his comments, and this is specifically about an AdWords campaign and how it helped him. First of all, he says it's been a great success. Previously, the clinic was not visible in key surrounding suburbs. He knew that. He wasn't getting the phone calls. So since starting AdWords, we've become visible. Businesses continue to grow at a strong rate, and we attribute AdWords with bringing in a whole bunch of new business. I appreciate the quality of the PetPack team and their support. I couldn't do this by myself. It's good knowing that the service is run efficiently. And that, so the last comment comes from having, he's got full access to the reporting, but also an interpretation by us, which allows him to cherry pick the key data out of those AdWords, which would be, for instance, his average position. Just go back a scene with one. This ad here is what we'd call position number 1, and if there's another ad appearing underneath, it would be position number 2. So we want to see our clients' ads in 1 to 1 point something, but definitely not in position of 2. And that's one of the reports we get. All right. This is a bit of detail about what we do at AdWords. You know, I've talked about having a budget and a schedule. So we have a daily spend. We set a radius, so that's really important for targeting the people that are likely to come to you. We don't want it to go, the ads to be appearing on the other side of the city. And then we have within our ad groups, we have specific ability to target those ads. And there's a few other bits and pieces as well. Here we go. This is how we measure success. Now, if a PetPack client is using a PetPack website, we'll track the success of the ad all the way through to whether that person got on the phone, which is pretty cool. Just at the AdWords level, we look at the click-through rate, how many people are clicking on the ads, the average position, which I mentioned before, the cost of those clicks, because remember, you only pay when someone clicks on it, total impressions, which is how many times those ads were seen, conversions, which is, did that person then do something like call the clinic? And then an example of good performance, which we talked about before, would be, stay in that position, would be 1 point something. Now, just check and see whether we have any questions before we get to the last little bit. All right. Let's go back to, I want to talk about my last little case study here. It's going to load, which will take a moment. So this is my last case study. It's once again about AdWords. AdWords is a hot topic at the moment because it's starting to have an impact on practices. This is Joe in Hoppers Crossing, Victoria. And Joe says, he rang me actually one day and said, my clients are calling the wrong clinic. Not a good thing to hear from one of our clients. He said, there's a competitor advertising in my area and it's confusing my clients. Can you fix it, PetPack? So that was the first part of the conversation. We said, yes, we can. And we were able to fix it pretty quickly, I think within an hour or so. And I'll explain to you what we did in a moment. And then once it was fixed, he said, hi, James, awesome. So good result. I trusted your team was doing a good job. Paying for marketing has always been barely tolerable for me, but paying PetPack is almost pleasurable with these results. I'm very proud of that. It's very good. So let me just, if we go to I've got another screen which will actually describe the situation. I can just escape out of this and bear with me while I bring that up. Okay, here we go now. This might be a bit small, but anyway, I'm going to make it up into a big screen so you can see it. So this is the search that was causing the problem. So we're doing a search as a consumer vet, Hoppers Crossing. So I'm looking for a vet and I'm standing in Hoppers Crossing. Now, before we did any work, I'll scroll up. This is what was coming up. This pet stock Hoppers Crossing ad was coming up. And in fact, wording was a bit different. And part of the problem is it's not pet stock doing it. It's the Google AdWords is changing the wording. So the wording read along the lines of Hoppers Crossing vet, not pet stock Hoppers Crossing. Because what Google does with AdWords is a thing called dynamic keyword insertion, where it rewrites the ad to fit what the consumer is looking for. Remember, we said the consumer is the one that they're trying to satisfy. But because they'd written it as Hoppers Crossing vet, it was confusing for people, particularly Joe's clients, who would then, they would just ring this number. Now, the good thing about that is it shows you how much people are trusting these ads. Whereas a couple of years ago, you wouldn't have got this same amount of engagement with the ad. The bad thing was they rang the wrong practice, and it's definitely a risk of losing clients that way. So what we did was, one of your questions might be, well, why don't you have an ad for Hoppers Crossing in there in the first place? Well, generally, when we're running AdWords, we don't have ads in the area where the website is strong. So if we scroll down here, you can see Joe is very strong with his Google My Business. First listing is his website. So we generally don't have ads. It hasn't been a problem. However, in this case, it's a problem because someone has been targeting this area. And if that's happening in your area, we would do the same thing as we've done for Joe. What we did was we put an ad in for Joe's clinic. And I'll scroll up to that now. Here it is here. And because Joe's clinic is much more relevant to the search vet Hoppers Crossing than the pet stock ad is, then Google will rate that a lot higher. So the average position for this ad is 1.1 or something like that. So in almost every case that these ads come up, it's the first ad that comes up now. The test and the benefit from Joe's point of view, the result that he liked was the fact that his clients stopped telling him that they've been ringing the wrong clinic, meaning they're not seeing and clicking on this ad. So adding the address, 5 Barber Drive, into the ad has made a big difference to making it less confusing for people. So that's a great result. Joe wanted that to happen. And that just shows you the flexibility of AdWords. So this is an example of a branding exercise, almost a defensive exercise to block another business from confusing and taking clients. All right, so back to the Prezzo. We're coming up to the end. Oops, sorry. Just in our last minute. Thank you, Joe, for that. Appreciate it. My last slide is really what about you guys? So if anyone here today is interested in getting these results, obviously we can help. We're delighted. It's what we do. Depending on what stage you're at, we will determine what we recommend. So obviously the first step is to have a conversation and find out what you're interested in doing, whether you want to get more new clients or whether you are interested in connecting with your existing clients more. And then what we'll do is just tailor a solution that fits your practice and we'll measure it. So for instance, with our websites, we, in most cases, so depending on what you started with, in most cases, we will increase your phone calls from online by 100% in 12 to 18 months. So that's pretty good going. And so we're very happy to talk to you. If you'd like to contact us, here's a little bit about our products. So just to clarify, websites, web support, email newsletters, AdWords, Google My Business listing, call tracking, which is where we measure the phone calls and record the audio for training purposes, and Facebook. And if you would like to contact us, please do. And you can see on the last page here, you can give us a call, 0396906253, or email us at info@petpack.com.au. That's info@petpack.com.au. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And it's been a great pleasure. Just check and see whether there are any more messages before we go. That's great. Thank you, everyone. Have a really good afternoon. Thanks for joining us, and the recording will be sent out shortly. Okay. Thank you. Bye.